influences the finance institutions. Unfortunately, I also come from that world. I came from the business world. The people driving this economy, all what they want is to ensure that there's stability in this country. So that there's stability that can guarantee conducive environment for them to do business. The deputy position, the deputy president's position, or even the deputy governor's position is a position that we need to think about. If you look, it has a history that every deputy president is unlikely that they survive. But we need to have the firing and hiring to be given to the same person that hires. Rather than having those people bringing, after firing, they want to fire, they bring them to the floor of the Senate. I wish we can go back to the Moi regime, where they used to be sacked and nothing changes. They hire as another one tomorrow, the following morning. Fortunately, the political formation in this country have representation from different communities. I know we are always asking where we are, but when the boss says he doesn't want the person that is hired, a manager, it is very, very hard to say that you can save that person, because even if you save him, where is he going to work? He may even find the offices are locked. So I think he makes the right decision to ensure that this country moves, because all what we are looking for is stability of this country. And I know when I'm in this floor, if we're unlikely that we don't save the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya, the one we have, that deputy president came from one community. I just pray that that position will be returned to the same community. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Asante.
Senator Okoit Omtata.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand here not to defend a good man. It's not important whether His Excellency the DP is a good man or a bad man. I stand here to defend the oath of office that I took to defend the Constitution of Kenya. And that includes giving the devil his due. When the people of Kenya, during public participation, was screaming Kufa Makanga, Kufa Ndereba, they were opposing selective prosecution. They said if Parliament has to hold people accountable, it should not be selective. And I stand here to look at whether this House has complied with the Constitution. Article 150, Clause 2, on the removal of the Deputy President. The grounds for impeachment are set out in Article 145. And the pursuant to Article 145, it is purely a political process, but bound by law, especially Article 25, Clause C, which requires that somebody is given a fair hearing. So the removal of the president by impeachment on any ground under Article 145 is a grave matter that involves overturning the sovereign will of the people as expressed in a democratic election. Even more profoundly, it means that the person so removed is prohibited for life from enjoying the rights under Article 38, Clause 3, Paragraph C, to be elected and hold office, to vie for, be elected and hold office. So the constitutional bar that must be cleared for the removal of the president from office is high. The Constitution requires that the removal must be well-founded in law, and that's why it prescribes the thresholds. And it must be objective. It is not a simple matter of numbers in the National Assembly and in the Senate. An impeachment is not a vote of no confidence. We must distinguish that. A vote of no confidence is a simple matter with no standards. It's just a political thing that you make, and somebody resigns from office, but he can come back and get to office again. This is an impeachment. So, Article 150, Clause 2 provides that to remove the deputy president, the provisions of Article 144 and 145 relating to the removal of the president, the deputy president, of the president shall apply with the necessary modifications to the removal of the deputy president. The Constitution does not anticipate a situation whereby we apply Article 145 on the removal of the deputy president without modifying it. The phrase is, shall apply with necessary modifications. What modifications has this House made, or the National Assembly made, or Parliament as a collective made to Article 145 before applying it to the Deputy President? Can we impeach the Deputy President using the standard for impeaching the President when we know very well that the President is immune to prosecution? And therefore, the certain standards that apply to him won't apply to the Deputy President. So given that the Deputy President has not enjoyed those immunities, how are we protecting him? How are we ensuring that this process is constitutional? It's my submission there's a total failure on Parliament to have proceeded to impeach the Deputy President without making the necessary modifications to Article 145. And you have seen the potholes we have fallen into. It's okay for the President because the President is immune from judicial processes. But is it okay that the Deputy President should be prosecuted using the same standard used for the President? And in the drafters of the Constitution,
Senator Ali Roba.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to time so that I don't lose my apologies. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, the Council for the Deputy President had really spent a lot of time in trying to bring out non-issues, leaving out the critical substance of the case against the Deputy President. And as I was seated here, I was honestly hoping I'll get an opportunity to get some clarification from the Deputy President. And unfortunately, that never happened. But since we are here and the public are watching, there are issues that need to be responded to. On the issue of serious allegation that is to do with the proceeds of crime and anti-money laundering, in the affidavit of the President, the Deputy President himself acknowledged that Christo Company belongs to him. And he also further acknowledged that he has transferred Christo Company to his sons. And he went further to acknowledge in his own sworn affidavit that he has borrowed 600 million shilling in order to purchase Outspan Hotel from Abadeas. But in the evidence that is filed, that is before us, he only provided a letter of offer from a bank and resolution of the company. But he failed to provide, and all of us understand the loan process and how tedious it is. The Deputy President failed, and if you are accused and you are threatened to be removed from the office of the Deputy President, I believe that the least that was expected of the Deputy President and his legal team is to, get with clarity a closed loop by providing the evidence that is required. For example, there is no provision in that in the evidence and that is filed before us of what happened after an offer was made. Normally it is followed by an agreement, a loan agreement. That evidence of loan agreement has not been filed. It is followed by a collateral document that was used. And, the need to get the collateral document through the legal perfection in terms of valuation report of that asset itself. He has not provided the charge document that indicates that that loan has been charged. In the evidence that is filed, he has not provided evidence of the fact that there is money credited to Christo account. And he has not further provided evidence of money leaving Christo account to go to Abadeas for acquisition of outspend. And the legal counsel expects, by concentrating on non-issues with the petitioner, that these issues will be swept under the carpet. The other issue that I need to bring out, yesterday we were shown videos. The videos indicated utterances of the president in Muranga, where the president made a statement in trying to validate the statement of shareholding and the country being a company. They showed the president making a statement of nyinyi mumepata share yenu. But that was a statement of inclusivity in context, as opposed to the deputy president's statement everywhere he has gone, that is, assertive utterance of exclusivity within the population in this republic. Mr. Speaker, sir, Article 145 of the Constitution and 146, 2A indicates that should the unforeseen eventuality happens, where the president ceases to be, God forbid, the deputy president takes over to finish the term of that presidency. The question I kept on asking myself, can this deputy president, can I really call this deputy president my president in the context of this division that has been ongoing? Mr. Speaker, sir, when you are the second in command in the country and you sit,
Senator Karungo. Senator Karungo.
No, I want to speak from the floor. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to oppose this motion. I stand to oppose, and I'll start from where I left by saying that children deserve the most honest and thoughtful answers. And allow me, when I give my point, to talk to my children and the children of patriots of this country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, cutting off the neck does not cure headache, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is one thing to condemn a healthy person and another to condemn someone who is sick or bedridden. Today, we were told the Deputy President fell ill, and he requested for time for us to give him an opportunity so that we can hear him. But that opportunity was not granted because we're in a hurry, and yes, I think we are. I don't know to where. Mr. Speaker, this is an impeachment in absentia. And I believe, Mr. Speaker, without contradiction, that probably it is a flawed process, Mr. Speaker. And for some reason or at some point, I was not able even to know who we are impeaching. Is this the Deputy President or the Governor of Siaya, Mr. Speaker? Why am I saying that? Because our starting orders, starting order 81 and starting order 80, says when a governor should appear before us. And we saw a governor standing there, Mr. Speaker. So sometimes I was asking myself, maybe the governor impeached himself by just appearing to us, Mr. Speaker. And I want to tell you, Mr. Speaker, when you listen to Mr. Mutuse, the main witness, when we ask him questions, he was saying this is just a prima facie, prima facie, prima facie. I'm not a lawyer. I Googled, and it says, prima facie says, on first sight. So we are impeaching the deputy president on allegation of at first sight. Mr. Speaker, we don't even love at first sight nowadays. But we have made the process of impeaching a deputy president so easy than kicking out a nagging boyfriend or a nagging girlfriend. So I stand here from Kiambu saying that, Mr. Speaker, I'm not going to impeach the deputy president because listening to the accusation here, they are not enough. They do not meet the threshold of removing somebody from the office. You ask Mutu, he says, I was not in an investigation journey. Mr. Mutuse, I just imagined. Mr. Mutuse, I don't know. Mr. Mutuse, I believe. Mr. Mutuse, Senate, believe me. Even if you don't believe me in one occasion or in one ground, just take one, the one that you love, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's sad that my brother, a person from my area or my region, the deputy president of this country is being impeached. And I want to talk to the majority leader, person I really respect, and also the senator for Bomet, Mr. Sigei. When we hope to save a brother, remember us when we ask you to save our brother, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I conclude on this issue, Mr. Speaker, he who assesses the integrity of others must exemplify an even higher standard of integrity on himself. I want to ask you members, please, as I go down to write your names or the sins on the ground, and I'm not calling myself Jesus, ask yourself, would you be the first one to throw the stone on the deputy president? And Mr. Speaker, I am going to leave this by saying I'm going to vote on all 11 counts. No, 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 no. I'm going to vote no. And I'm going to leave you with one quote I've read from a member of parliament from Gatondo North, who has said, Mr. Speaker, and I read, the dog is not sick, it's just afraid, facing its last 2 hours of power forever, Mr. Speaker. Those are the MPs who kicked out the deputy president. They are now calling him a dog. Maybe even this motion, Mr. Speaker, was brought by some people who are suffering from mental issues, Mr. Speaker. I'm going to say that because how do you call a deputy president is a dog and he's not sick and he's only waiting to get out of power for 2 hours? I ask you, brothers, please do not play along the galleries. Respect the deputy president, respect the people of Murima, and I leave you with Exodus 19, verse 12. Mr. Speaker, we were told if you touch a widow, you die. It says if you touch the mountain, you die. I vote no.
Senator Sifuna. Senator Edwin Sifuna.
Honorable Speaker, let me join you and the others who have sent their sympathies to His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua. We wish him a quick recovery so that he can come back. Honorable Speaker, I think it is a very unfair accusation that we are impeaching somebody whilst in hospital. It has been said here, Honorable Speaker, that nobody can predict when you can be taken ill. It can happen to any one of us. And therefore, we did not plan that the Deputy President will not be here to also be able to present his case. And as Senator Roba has said, many people were in fact waiting to also get some clarifications from some of the pronouncements that have come from the Deputy President. Honorable Speaker, I want to also thank the parties that have taken time to appear before us, the case by the National Assembly, and of course the very able representation of the Deputy President. Honorable Speaker, it is clear that the case by the National Assembly is not perfect. But I have agonized over some of the issues that have been raised by the National Assembly. And Honorable Speaker, allow me to begin with ground one, where the Deputy President is accused of violation of Articles 27(4), which, Honorable Speaker, makes it unconstitutional for you to discriminate on, among other grounds, Honorable Speaker, on the grounds of belief. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, there is also an express provision under Article 73 on the same, and Article 33(3)(d) that specifically deals with speech, Honorable Speaker, that constitutes advocacy for hatred on the basis of discrimination. Honorable Speaker, yesterday when I put this question to the legal team of the Deputy President, I was expecting a proper explanation, but of course, you all saw that they chose to throw snide remarks.
Senator Gataya and Senator Tabitha.
Please pause my time.
When Senator Tabitha, you're speaking,
Pause my time.
senators give you a pin drop silence. The same must be extended to the senator for Nairobi City. Sit down, Senator Mofire. Proceed.
So, Honorable Chair, Honorable Speaker, yesterday when I put this question seeking clarification to the defense team, they chose instead to make snide remarks about appointments that have been made recently of members of my party, ODM. Honorable Speaker, I have agonized about some of the things that the Deputy President has said. In fact, in my entire time as an elected leader, I've met the Deputy President only once, and this is the second occasion when he was in the House. And both of them, honestly, were very sad events. The first one was a funeral, and these proceedings can also be likened to a political death if the House decides to impeach him. But, Honorable Speaker, on that occasion, I did tell him to his face my position on some of the utterances that have come from him, that in fact, I strongly objected to those pronouncements. His legal team sought to hide behind these coalition agreements. I have agonized over what to do with an agreement, Honorable Speaker, that ousts the mandate of constitutional bodies. For instance, Honorable Speaker, you are told that in the agreement, positions that essentially are supposed to be available to all Kenyans through advertisement by the Public Service Commission, like permanent secretaries, have already been dished out. So what am I supposed to do with a contract that ousts the mandate of the PSC, a constitutional body? What am I supposed to do with a contract that ousts the mandate of this House, Honorable Speaker? For instance, to vote for the person who sits in the chair that you sit in. And if memory serves me right, Honorable Speaker, members who are not signatories to the coalition agreement of Kenya Kwanza, in fact, participated in voting for you to become the Speaker. And many of them were members of my political party, ODM, although, of course, I was not one of them. Honorable Speaker, there is a position in law about what to do with illegal and unconscionable contracts. I feel that the Deputy President wasted an opportunity to give clarification on his pronouncements that, Honorable Speaker, he chooses to hide behind a contract that I consider unconstitutional is something that I have agonized over. Honorable Speaker, one of the questions that was posed to him is what, I remember a discussion about which is what are the strongholds of ANC and Ford Kenya. And somebody said that it is Western Kenya. Honorable Speaker, as SG of ODM, I know for a fact that Busia County is an ODM county. In fact, if you look at the statistics at the Register of Political Parties, the county with the highest membership in ODM is not Homa Bay or Siaya. It is actually Busia County. So the question I'm being asked by my members from Busia is, Honorable Speaker, if a member of ODM who resides in Busia wanted to be a permanent secretary, does he take his application to the local Ford Kenya office so that he can access the 30% for Western Kenya? And that is the agony, Honorable Speaker, that people are going through. Honorable Speaker, there was also the conversation around the public attacks on a judge. As a lawyer, as an advocate of the High Court, sworn to defend the Constitution, I agonize over what I'm supposed to do with public attacks on judicial officers, Honorable Speaker, people that I appear before seeking justice for my clients. Honorable Speaker, we have a discussion around also attacks on intelligence institutions in our country and the Director General of the Intelligence. Honorable Speaker, it was argued here that in fact, as a member of the National Security Council, the Deputy Speaker has a forum, the Deputy President has a forum to bring up
Senator Karen Nyamu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I can assure you, Mr. Speaker, none of us is enjoying these proceedings of an impeachment motion against the Deputy President, and particularly those of us from the government side, the Kenya Kwanza coalition. And for obvious reasons, Mr. Speaker, because he has been our leader, we have been in the trenches with him, fighting for this government. And so it has come to this, and I can assure you we are not particularly very excited about it. I personally have interacted with him on numerous occasions. If you look in the internet, Mr. Speaker, you will see photos of me dancing with the Deputy President, Mr. Speaker. I have followed these proceedings very keenly, all the 11 counts. One, the gross violations of the Constitution, Article 10.2, the one that talks about the conduct of public officials, including the Deputy President. The one that talks about him being a principal assistant of the President and an extension of the presidency. Article 147, that talks about his insubordination. And one that Sifuna has talked about, Article 160, that deals with undermining public institutions, and particularly the judges, Mr. Speaker. I have been born and grown up in Nairobi County, in Eastlands particularly. And where I come from, when we grow up, we are not even aware of each other's tribe. Our neighbor could be from any other tribe. And so when I hear the Deputy President talking and allocating shares to citizens, I am aware that he's excluding more than half the population of Nairobians from service delivery, the same people that me and Sifuna are always here fighting for, every day, for allocations and for services, Mr. Speaker. And as if that was not enough, he was in the CBD the other day, addressing Nairobians in the Kikuyu language, assuming that all Marikiti traders are Kikuyus. Mr. Speaker, nothing can be further from the truth. And sowing seeds of tribalism in Nairobi is very, very dangerous. If you have seen the slum setup, where people live together, all tribes together, I do not want to imagine if you sensitize these people and make them aware of their tribes and their lack of shares in their own country, Mr. Speaker. And finally, in future, I want to call upon presidential candidates to make it a very critical attribute of their running mates to have political maturity and to have a national outlook, Mr. Speaker. Because to some extent we want to put some blame on the president, because we are wondering what he looked at when he picked his running mates. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Kajwang.
Mr. Speaker, as I make my comments on this motion, I'd like to wish the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, Rigathi Gachagua, quick recovery. He is still the President of the Republic of Kenya as at 9:19 p.m. on the 17th of October until any decision is made. He's still the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. We pray that God gives him the strength and God gives him good health to continue pursuing that responsibility. Mr. Speaker, the Council for County Assembly began his opening statement and his National Assembly, that is the Venerable James Orengo, with a quote from Scripture. Mr. Speaker, allow me also to go to Scripture. And this time I will go to the book of John. In the book of John, chapter 8, we get the story of the adulterous woman. Mr. Speaker, Jesus Christ is teaching his disciples at the temple early in the morning, and the scribes and the Pharisees early in the morning drag a woman to his presence and say that this woman has been caught in the act of adultery. The Bible says that she has been caught, and I quote, in the very act of adultery. Mr. Speaker, what surprises me in this passage is that the woman who was caught in the very act of adultery has been produced, but the man who contributed to the adultery was not brought before Jesus Christ in the temple. Mr. Speaker, we have a man who has been brought before us for impeachment. We have been told that he's been a political adulterer. We have been told that he has grossly violated the Constitution and the laws of the Republic of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, adultery takes two. It takes two to tango. Like that woman in the book of John, I don't know whether they went for the men who cajoled her, who seduced her, who connived with her, and who paid her for the act of adultery. Mr. Speaker, in this Republic of Kenya, we must drain the swamp of adultery. And today, just like back in the days when the law of Moses required that a woman who had been convicted or accused of adultery ought to be stoned to death, unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, it looks like the same punishment was not prescribed for men. It was just for women to be stoned to death, and yet it takes a man for a woman to commit adultery. Tonight, because the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya is just like the law of Moses, it says if you are found guilty of political adultery, you should be stoned to political death. It is called impeachment. You are sent into political purgatory for 10 years. You cannot run for office. Mr. Speaker, we must deal with the law as is. The law as is requires us that the woman or the man accused of adultery must be stoned to death in this chamber. That is the law as it is. But Mr. Speaker, we must make sure that we bring those other men and women who commit and who encourage people to go into adultery so that they also face the same sentence and they also face the same judgment. Mr. Speaker, I am convinced that political adultery has been committed in the case before us. There has been a conversation about a dubious shareholding structure of the Republic of Kenya. If the Republic of Kenya was a corporation, as we have been told, or if it was a political party, then we would have 56 million equal shareholders from Moyale to Vanga, from Nyatike to Nyandiwa, from Bumala to Malaba. Mr. Speaker, it cannot be restricted to a geographical entity called a mountain. Mr. Speaker, I am convinced that political adultery has been committed in the intimidation and threats to judicial officers. I am convinced that political adultery has been committed in public attacks on our intelligence service. So, Speaker, where I come from, if you find your father naked, you don't proclaim his nakedness, you cover him. And we cannot then proclaim the nakedness of our intelligence service. Mr. Speaker, I am convinced that the Deputy Speaker has committed political adultery. Sorry, the Deputy President has committed... I am sorry, Deputy Speaker, has committed political adultery. And Mr. Speaker, for...
Your time is up. Your time is up, Senator Murango.
Asante sana mstahiki Spika. Kwanza ningetaka kumwombea afueni haraka naibu wa rais. Alafu niseme hivi. Mstahiki Spika, fisi anapotaka kula mtoto mwanawe husema kwamba ananuka kama mbuzi. Mstahiki Spika, mashtaka iliyo mbele yetu leo ni dhahiri shahiri ya kwamba ni fisi anayetaka kula mwanawe. Mstahiki Spika, wakati Mheshimiwa Karungu Adhango alikuwa anaongea hapa leo na kuambia ombe msamaha, alikuwa amemwambia naibu mkurugenzi mkuu wa idara ya jinai kwamba anapojibu ajibu na wanao. Mstahiki Spika, mashtaka ambayo imekuwa hapa, kampuni zote zimekuwa hapa, zilikuwa nyingi, zilikuwa za watoto wake Rigathi Gachagua. ama kweli chambilecho mkuki kwa nguruwe, kwa binadamu mchungu. Kwa sababu mstahiki Speaker, hakuwezi kuwa na umbaguzi wa wanawe naibu rais, lakini kusiwe wale wengine wanapewa heshima tofauti na hiyo. Mstahiki Speaker, mimi nimetoka Kirinyaga na najua mashtaka yote ambayo yako hapo 11. Kuna jambo moja ambalo mpaka ufanye kama utadhirisha mashtaka, na ni ushiriki wa umma ambao tuko na ushahidi mbele yetu. Mstahiki Speaker, katika ushiriki wa umma ambao tuko na mbele yetu, isipokuwa picha za maofisi za CDF, alafu na takwimu ambazo zimetoka katika bunge la kitaifa, ambalo wale wote ambao walikuwa wametia sahihi kumondoa naibu ya rais ndio walioongoza katika ushiriki wa umma. Mstahiki Speaker, ningeuliza itakuwaje, itawezekanaje mtu ambaye ametia sahihi kumondoa naibu wa rais halafu anaongoza katika ushiriki wa umma? Mbuzi atapata haki wapi katika mahakama ya afisi? Mstahiki Speaker, Mstahiki Speaker, ningetaka niseme ya kwamba ni rais kuangalia mashtaka na kuyaona kama inafaa kwa naibu wa rais ambaye ako hospitali. Najua ya kwamba naweza kuwa nimesimama hapa napoteza kuni nikichemsha mawe, najua ya hivi, lakini fisi alisema siku moja, hata aliambia mawe siku moja, hata kama hujaongea umesikia chenye nimesema. Mstahiki Speaker, katika mashtaka yaliyo hapa, na sisi tunafaa kuongozwa na ushahidi, sio riwaya, sio hekaya za mbunwasi, sio fasihi. Mstahiki Speaker, lakini tunazo hapa Mstahiki Speaker, zote ni hekaya za mbunwasi. Hakuna ushahidi wote ambao tumepewa mbele yetu, lakini siwezi kusimama hapa halafu niweze kumhukumu naibu wa rais, kwa sababu pia katika kitabu ya Korosai 3 mstari wa 13 inasema ukihukumu wengine wa hukumu venye wewe utataka kuhukumiwa. Sasa Mstahiki Speaker, itakuwaje kwamba walioorodhesha mashtaka yaliyo hapa na kosa kuleta ushahidi tunafaa tuamini leo? Ni chuki ama ni uchungu gani ambao wako nao na naibu wa rais? Mstahiki Speaker, unajua akuchukiae huwa anakuambia unamtifulia vumbi hata wakati unaogelea. Mstahiki Speaker, mahali nilikotoka mimi nataka kitu ya kwanza kufanya ni kuwakilisha watu wangu, na waliniambia kwamba ushiriki wa umma ambao uko hapa hawakuhusishwa vilivyo, kwa sababu walioenda kule mashinani kufanya ushiriki wa umma walienda kufanya ushiriki wa umma wakijua matokeo yake. Mstahiki Speaker, na kwa hivyo mimi nimeambiwa na watu wangu kutoka Kirinyaga yale mashtaka yote ambayo yamewekwa hapo, na kwa sababu tumekuchagua wewe uende pale utuwakilishe, tafadhali ukienda yote usikumbalie na hata moja. Mstahiki Speaker, Mswahili usema lilompata peku na ungo ni lilo. Mstahiki Speaker, wewe ni Mswahili, unajua kwamba ungo ni uteo ambao ni mpya, peku ni uteo, ungo ni uteo ambao ni mpya, peku ni uteo ambao unapepetea ambao ni mzee. Namwambia siku ya leo maseneta tukimhukumu naibu ya rais, yanayompata leo hata nyinyi mjue siku moja inaweza kuja ikampata, na ambaye atachukua msumari wa kwanza kumpigilia naibu wa rais, ningeomba kwamba asiwe ni mtu kutoka mlima. Huyu ni ndugu yetu, na kwa hivyo tunapokuja kumsurubisha katika msarambani, afadhali tuangalie akisurumbiwa, lakini mmoja wetu asichukue nyundo na msumari na nyundo kwenda kumsurumu. Mstahiki Speaker, najua ya kwamba kuna wale ambao wanaelekeza vingine visivyo bwana. Mswahili usema usiwe vitatange kuwatosa wengine ndemani. Kama uko na msimamo tayari, usije ukapeleka mwenzako katika huo msimamo wako. Tunafaa kuzingatia ushahidi, tunafaa kuangalia kwa haki, kama maombi yetu ambayo tuko nayo katika seneti kwamba tutaangalia kila kitu kwa haki na uaminifu. Asante sana Mstahiki Speaker.
Now, honorable senators, we had a consensus to terminate at 9:30. But again, breathe in and out. But again, I'm asking with your consensus if we can push it for another half an hour so that we terminate at 10. Is that okay? You know, honorable senators, we have to vote for 11 counts individually. So we will do an extra half an hour, then we terminate. The Honorable Olekina, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this evening, let me disabuse this notion that an impeachment process is an attack of the mountain region. Mr. Speaker, an impeachment process is a vital process of holding public officers, state officers, accountable. Mr. Speaker, I've heard on various occasions from my colleagues, those who oppose this motion, that we are targeting the mountain. I beg to differ, and I do so with the following findings.
There is a lot of movement in the chamber,
Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Senators, and Senator Olekina's. Let's take our seat, please. And let us hear the Honorable Senator in silence.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me begin again by saying I want to disabuse this notion that an impeachment process is an attack of a region. It is not. It is a constitutional process that this House has been given the task to be able to hold officers accountable. Today, we are discussing the impeachment of a deputy president. Tomorrow, we might be discussing the impeachment of a president. We have constantly debated impeachment of governors here. I've never heard at one given time when people come up and say we are targeting a particular community. We are not, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have been entertained this afternoon or the last 2 days with the defense alleging that the shareholding utterances made by the deputy president is that he was referring to the shareholding of a coalition agreement. And Mr. Speaker, we were demonstrated here that the Kenya Kwanza coalition agreed upon how they can be able to share different, positions in government. In fact, I thought they would say that the Speaker of this House was also negotiated. I believe when the Speaker of this House was proposed to be voted for, he was voted for by all the senators. And never have I seen the Speaker giving preference to the people of the coastal region. So, Mr. Speaker, I find I'm not convinced by the defense that the shareholding being uttered by the Deputy President is based on a coalition agreement. Mr. Speaker, the defense attempted to respond to the allegation on ground 8, whereby they say that the utterances of the Deputy Speaker violate Section 132 of the Penal Code. It is important for us to know what Section 132 of the Penal Code says. It actually makes it illegal to utter, print, or publish words or acts that brings into contempt the lawful authority of a public officer. The decision made by Justice Esther Maina in her capacity as a judge of the High Court is protected by the position that she holds. So it is a bit nonsensical for the Deputy President to go out in public, instead of following the due process of the law, to be able to go out and appeal the decision of that judge. Until today, Mr. Speaker, the coercion which was used to be able to return the 200 million shillings back to the Deputy President, that money must go back to the public. Mr. Speaker, the Deputy President has got a forum. Article 240 of the Constitution puts him as one of the key members in the National Security Council. He has got a forum to be able to go out there and express his dissatisfaction with the NIS. When he calls a press conference and outright says that the Director General of the National Intelligence, has completely brought that service into a halt. He was exposing the secrets of this country, and what he was doing is that he was actually saying that we have got no control. Mr. Speaker, if for anything, today I'll cast my vote based on various issues. One, on shareholding. Two, on the violation of Section 132 of the Penal Code. Three, on the issues of coercion. I listened to the gentleman from Kempsett this afternoon when he said that he had to sit for hours at ESCC to be able to come out with one billboard. One. He was called on the 11th. When the defense were trying to justify that, instead of actually reading the recommendation made by the Senate, they were going through the submissions of one of the witnesses who appeared before my Committee of Health. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm convinced.
Senator Seki. The senator was elected by the people of Kajiado.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I also want to put my voice to this motion of the proposal to removal of the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, as a motion by Honorable Mutuse. I want to say that the grounds that has been put to this House from number 1 to number 11, Honorable Speaker, I thank the legal counsel of the Deputy President for interrogating the witnesses, more so Honorable Mutuse being the lead witness and the mover of the motion. Honorable Speaker, I want to put to this House that I am unable to see evidence that has been put in place for the 11 counts, 11 grounds in this motion. Honorable Mutuse was unable to demonstrate on issues that has been raised in this motion. Particularly, can go to 1 or 2, the motion or the counts 7 or charge 7, where the Deputy President was alleged to have a 5.2 billion within his assets within that small period of time. Honorable Speaker, I understand that this witness was not able to explain and demonstrate that the Honorable Deputy President got the 5.2 billion because of the contracts that he has done with the government. He wasn't able to demonstrate that this money, 5.2 billion, was received or was the Deputy President received because of this, from this company, from another company, or this other company. There was no evidence on this count. Honorable Speaker, the kind of impunity I've seen in the issue of listing 22 companies without evidence of what the track of the monies of funds that has been done or that has been used to demonstrate that these companies are doing business with government was not there. This is impunity of a high order. To bring 22 companies and you are unable, as a move of the motion, to explain that this company A, company 1 to company number 22 have received or got money from government or from government institutions. but you just put it on the motion and it becomes something to impeach the Deputy President. Honorable Speaker, we have seen where the Deputy President is alleged to have conspired with a company, Agrobrick Investment Limited, where the control of State House, as an accounting officer of the State House, signed the contract, and it is brought to the motion that this contract and this company is alleged to have been a company to remove the Deputy President. Honorable Speaker, this House this afternoon received a report from the legal counsel of the Deputy President that the Deputy President is sick. Now, we are ready.
Senator Faki.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii kuchangia mswada wa kumbandua naibu wa rais kutoka katika ofisi yake ya naibu wa rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwanza pia mimi nijiunge na wenzangu kumtakia afueni ya haraka naibu wa rais, kwa sababu tulikuwa ni matarajio yetu kwamba jioni ya leo angekuwa hapa kujitetea kwa madai kadha wa kadha ambao ameletewa katika bunge hili ili kuweza kutakasa jina lake. Mheshimiwa Spika, nimeweza kuangalia mashtaka yake 11 na baadhi ya mashtaka ambayo nimeona kuwa yamenigusa ni kwanza ni shtaka la kwanza ambapo ni kusema kuwa Kenya ina wenye hisa na kwake wenye hisa ni wale ambao walipigia kura Kenya Kwanza katika uchaguzi wa mwaka 2022. Mheshimiwa Spika, hiyo imebagua makabila zaidi ya 47 katika nchi yetu, na sisi ambao tutoka pwani, ambao kutoka mwanzo pwani ilikuwa si koloni ya Kenya, ilitupa mshtuko mkubwa kwa sababu tuliona kwamba tunazidi kutengwa katika mamlaka ya jamhuri yetu ya Kenya. Mheshimiwa Spika, shtaka la pili ambalo limenibamba ni la kuhusu ukiukaji wa sheria, na hapa nitaangazia shtaka la pili na shtaka la 6 ambapo amekiuka sheria inayohusiana na uwiano katika nchi yetu ya Kenya na vile vile pia kuleta makabila na jamii zote pamoja. Mheshimiwa Spika, la 3 ni ukosefu wa nidhamu, swala la ukosefu wa nidhamu katika kumshambulia hadharani mkurugenzi wa shirika la ujasusi nchini mwetu. Mheshimiwa Spika, hili litokea mnamo tarehe 26 mwezi wa 6 mwaka huu ambapo naibu wa rais alikuwa Mombasa na akatoa taarifa ambazo zilihujumu usalama wa taifa, ambapo yeye kama naibu wa rais alikuwa na fursa ya kuweza kuzungumzia mambo haya katika serikali na vile vile pia hatua za kurekebisha zikachukuliwa. Mheshimiwa Spika, tunapoangalia makosa yote haya ni kwamba haya yasingeweza kumfika naibu wa rais kwa sasa, kwa sababu masuala haya ambayo yameangaziwa hapa yaliangaziwa na Senator Sifuna alipoleta mswada wake wa kumkosoa naibu wa rais, lakini mswada ule ulikufa ndani ya bunge hili la Senate. Mheshimiwa Spika, masuala ya ukiukaji wa kiapo haya, Mheshimiwa Spika, hayana nguvu kwa sababu wakati alipokuwa anaapishwa siku ya kwanza aliapa viapo viwili. Kwa hivyo hatujui ni kiapo kipi ambacho alikikeuka wakati Mheshimiwa Mudhusi alipokuja hapa na kuzungumzia masuala haya. Mheshimiwa Spika, nikimalizia nitamnukuu Senator Orengo aliposema kwamba katika bunge lililokwisha kwamba mapinduzi yanakula watoto wake. Kwa Kiingereza, revolutions eat their own children. Na hii tunaona kwamba mapinduzi yameanza kula watoto wa Kenya Kwanza, wakianza na mtoto mkubwa kabisa ambaye ni naibu wa rais. Kwa hivyo ni swala ambalo ni masuala ambayo yameendelea katika bunge hili. Bunge lililokwisha tuliona hapa Profesa Kindiki aliteta sana hapa, lakini vile vile mapinduzi yakamla. Kwa hivyo ni kwamba lazima tujenge siasa katika nchi yetu ambazo zitakuwa ni siasa za kusonga mbele. Tukichaguliwa kama viongozi, tuzungumze masuala ya kitaifa. Tusizungumze masuala ya vijijini mwetu, wakati sisi matarajio wa Kenya wote ni kwamba tunazungumzia masuala ya kitaifa. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, napongeza pia bunge hili la Senate kwa kuonesha ukakamavu na vile vile pia umahiri mkubwa wakati tumeweza kusikiza kesi ya naibu wa rais. Labda kwa siku za usoni tutapata pia fursa ya kusikiza kesi ya rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya katika bunge hili letu. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii.
Senator Oroba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I want to say that this is not about a relationship. It's not about a friendship that has deteriorated. I have been hearing people say, if it's about a relationship, if it's about a marriage that has broken, why don't they go back and make peace and come together? No, Mr. Speaker. These two individuals, His Excellency the President and the Deputy President, did not come together so that they can live happily ever after and have children, Mr. Speaker. They came together so that they could deliver development to the people of Kenya, Mr. Speaker. So this, what we have been doing here for hours and hours, it pains me when I hear people saying, you know, about adultery and relationships and what, and I'm wondering, no. We have been here because of 11 counts, Mr. Speaker. A very serious impeachment motion because of not 2, not 3, but 11 counts, Mr. Speaker. In my condition, I have had to sit here and go through all 11 counts to understand which one actually has been substantiated and which one holds water. So no, this is not about a relationship. And we should not expect that because they came together, they should now go and sit somewhere and make peace. Now, and you know, stop disturbing us. No, Mr. Speaker, 11 counts of an impeachment motion is something very serious, Mr. Speaker. To speak so that we can be able to understand. Some of us, we don't sit in cabinets, and we need to understand what a cabinet decision is, how it is undermined. Mr. Speaker, the witness was not produced. We had another witness who did not come here in terms of undermining devolution. Governor Sakaja signed an affidavit, but then did not appear, Mr. Speaker. People must respect the Senate, because when we are sitting here to analyze 11 counts, Mr. Speaker, honestly, in all fairness, they should at least be substantiated to some level. However, Mr. Speaker, I have lived through the post-election violence of 2007, 2008. And it is very strange that 2007 I was also pregnant, Mr. Speaker. And when I remember, Mr. Speaker, the things that triggered the post-election violence, Mr. Speaker, in 2008 of January, it was such utterances such as Musiguze Mlima, Mr. Speaker. They started as a joke, and before you knew it, matatus were being stopped and people were being asked, get off the matatu and showcase your IDs, and arms and limbs were being chopped off, Mr. Speaker. So we might think it is a joke, this shareholding narrative, Mr. Speaker, but having lived through that post-election violence, and I remember very well, Mr. Speaker, that I even had to choose the people who are operating, you know, on me in 2008, because I was afraid, you know, as Kisses, we love everyone. People always think we are traitors because we welcome everyone. So at that time, the attack on us was from both sides, Mr. Speaker. And so therefore, I do not take this shareholding narrative as a light thing. I do not take this Musiguze Mlima as a light thing, Mr. Speaker, because I have been affected directly. And on that count, Mr. Speaker, I definitely have seen that it has been substantiated. We have seen the evidence, and we have even seen repeated utterances of causing divisiveness in this country, Mr. Speaker. And I want to say today, Mr. Speaker, this country is not about one person. It is not about William Ruto. It is not about Rigathi Gachagua. This country is about the 50 million Kenyans who have to live in peace and under the national unity, Mr. Speaker. And for that reason, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that on that shareholding narrative, I hold my ground, and I will definitely vote that he should be impeached.
Senator Kavindu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Let me start by telling His Excellency, the Deputy President of this country, Pole Sana, and we wish you a quick recovery. Two, Mr. Speaker, I want to quote a scripture which has been quoted here, John 8:7. Jesus told the people who took that woman before him, whoever has no sin to be the first to take the stone and throw at that woman. And when he bent down, when he came up, there was none of them. All the men had gone, only the woman was standing there. And he told her, go in peace, your sins have been forgiven. Mr. Speaker, when I talk like this, I'm saying that the other day we had the Deputy President publicly ask for forgiveness. And the Bible in the book of Matthew 14, Matthew 6, verse 14 and 15, says that if we don't forgive men their sins when they sin against us, our Heavenly Father will never forgive us our sins. And talking like this, Mr. Speaker, I want to say the mover of this motion, Honorable Mutuse, could not substantiate the allegations. He was asked questions, and people even outside on media are laughing and asking what kind of a lawyer is he, because he could not answer many of the questions, because I think he was not aware of what of the motion. To me, it seemed like it was drafted by somebody else and he was given just to table it. Mr. Speaker, I want to say, even the last speech of the National Assembly, they said on impeachment, it is not necessary or important to substantiate every allegation and even to make sure that you have all the evidence of the allegations, because this is not like court. And I thought, as a Senate, we sit here as a court, and whatever ruling we give here is acceptable. And so I wonder why one would stand and say that they could not, it is not a must that they substantiate beyond reasonable doubt. I believe if we are impeaching a person, we should, all the accusations must be substantiated and beyond reasonable doubt, because that is one's career we are about maybe to ruin. And this person has a family. This person has a career. When I think of Waititu, when I think of Songo, for 10 good years, they cannot stand on any elective office. And I had...
Honorable Senators. Senator Methu, you are heard in silence. Senator Fonandi, you are heard in silence.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Extend the same treatment to Senator Kavindu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, it was just the other day, I had Majority Leader and many of us here say that Songo was impeached for no good reason. How do we reverse what we have already done on this, in this Senate? So, Mr. Speaker, I want to say, before we impeach anyone, we must substantiate all the charges and make sure that it is not something that we are going to eat back our words and start saying we did a mistake. Mr. Speaker, I stand here to say no to this motion.
Senator Kathure Murungi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity also to make some comments, one or two comments on this important exercise. Mr. Speaker, many Kenyans are wondering why the Deputy President is being impeached. And they are saying if he is to be impeached, him and the President should be impeached at the same time. Mr. Speaker, the articles in the Constitution, our Constitution has given the National Assembly and the Senate this mandate to do this exercise of checks and balances to our public officers. And Mr. Speaker, Article 145, which we used this afternoon even to determine whether to proceed or not, is very elaborate on how to the process of impeaching the Deputy President or the President. So, Mr. Speaker, we are here because the Senate actually has been, on several occasions, we have brought deputy governors, and now the Deputy President. Mr. Speaker, kindly protect me from this. The Honorable Speaker, Mr. Speaker, kindly protect me from some noise from behind.
Senator Fernande.
So, Mr. Speaker, I was saying...
move to your seat, your normal seat.
I was trying to say that, Mr. Speaker...
It may be lonely, but please stick there. Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, this House has brought deputy governors, and now the Deputy President. Mr. Speaker, what we are doing is a constitutional mandate. And therefore, I will ask Kenyans that they should bear with the Constitution. It is the Constitution which has brought us where we are. I want to thank the parties that were here for the last 2 days, the parties representing the Deputy President and the parties representing the National Assembly, Mr. Speaker. All these senators have been sitting as judges for the last 2 days and nights. And Mr. Speaker, it is only that this is a court, like a high court. Only that judges in the High Court or the courts do not discuss the cases that they handle, but they meet and discuss, and then they make the decision. And then the decision is led by maybe the president of the court. But because now we make a decision through a vote, that is why, Mr. Speaker, we find ourselves here. And this evening, these jurists will make their decision in one or the other. And Mr. Speaker, what I would request Kenyans from today, whatever decision will be made to maintain peace, love, and unity, as was envisaged since independence in 1963. Because, Mr. Speaker, where we are, a decision will be made by the Senate in one way or the other, either to impeach the Deputy President or to appoint, or not to impeach, not to impeach, Mr. Speaker. And I want to talk to the people that represent the Meru community. I want to assure them that whatever decision their senator will make is for the best interest of the Meru people. And I want to assure them that their future will be bright, if not more bright, Mr. Speaker. And what they need is service delivery, not individuals. Whatever decision that I'll make is for their best interest, because they elected me to make some decisions. Some are soft decisions or hard decisions. But what they need at the end of the day, they will ask their senator for 5 years, what have you done for us? But as I finish, Mr. Speaker, I want to encourage all of us in a verse from the Bible, Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 18, which says that in every situation, no matter what the circumstances, be thankful and continually give thanks to God. For this is the will of God for you in Christ Jesus. So, whatever you do, thank God. Whatever happens to you, thank God, because we always should give thanks to God. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Crystal Asige.
Speaker, the Parliament of Kenya has gone through a great deal in a very short amount of time, many firsts. And it is utterly painful for me to know that the world keeps seeing us time and time again under such lugubrious circumstances. However, Speaker, it has taught me many, many lessons. And it's also reminded me of many that I've known for several years, one of which I was taught by Tony Evans, which is, if all you see is what you see, then you don't see all there is to be seen. Speaker, I have never met the Deputy President. In fact, in the last 2 days, the first time we've ever shared any space together. And to be honest, I don't think that we have much in common. I personally feel like there is a lot to be desired in his leadership style, for me personally. However, instead of going to the Bible, I want to go instead into my own experience and draw some parallels. Mr. Speaker, I, of course, know people, and I've been fighting and battling it for several years of my life. And Speaker, when I first got my diagnosis when I was just a teenager in high school, I was told that it was imminent. There was no running away from my condition. And I didn't know at the time that I had anything that was going on. I was just going about my life, but inside of me and around me, there was a condition that was building up and building up and building up, and I had no idea what was going to happen in the future. Mr. Speaker, now I've been left blind, and I cannot see in front of me even when I put my hand in front of my face. Mr. Speaker, the parallels I draw with my life and the current hearing that we are sitting in today is that the Deputy President did not foresee this happening to him either. Mr. Speaker, I have also drawn parallels of feeling out of control, which I assume that he feels. Being given a diagnosis that seems imminent, that he cannot stop. Mr. Speaker, I also feel that he is probably feeling fear. That's what I've heard. Mr. Speaker, feeling betrayed, feeling angry. And I felt all those feelings because of a situation that I can draw parallels with in this hearing. And Mr. Speaker, I have been fighting and fighting, pleading and praying, trying everything in my power to mitigate, to stop, just like he has been doing in the last several weeks that this has been going on, Speaker. And it's funny that it's Blindness Awareness Month this month in October, because there are many lessons, like I said, that I have learned, and I wish that the public would also take from this experience. Mr. Speaker, I hope that the public understands that when they have their back to the wall, when they've been in any kind of battle, even when they feel isolated, there is something called golfer's elbow, which I learned. Golfer's elbow is the idea that, or is a condition that golfers usually have when they hold on to the grip of their club too tight for a long period of time, and they end up injuring their wrist all the way up to their elbow because they're holding on too tight to an outcome, too tightly. And I've learned that sometimes you just have to let that go. And I hope that the public can take that away from this situation. Mr. Speaker, we must move away from hegemony, the idea of being dominated by one group or a person or a company or a state, because we are a democratic republic, and we need to move away from such ideology, such utterances, such behavior, Mr. Speaker. However, in the 11 counts, I have seen many that have no evidence, and I've seen some that do have some evidence. But I have not been particularly given confidence by the witness-in-chief, the mover of this motion, when I saw him up on the stand, Mr. Speaker. Although none of us can relate to what it's like to being a deputy president in this room for sure, we can definitely relate to the lessons that I've just mentioned. Mr. Speaker, make decisions today that will not betray you tomorrow. That's one. I also want to share that even though you're in a battle, whatever that might be, financial, personal, medical, whatever it is that you're going through at the moment, and you feel like your back is on the wall and everything, all the odds are against you, remember that it gets better. You do better. You will experience better, and we will become better, Mr. Speaker. I will finish, and I hope that the senators will remember what I said to them yesterday from the Bible, Proverbs 17:15.
Senator Newton.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I think I cannot thank you more for affording me this opportunity at this late hour. Mr. Speaker, I stand right from the onset to say that I oppose this particular motion, Mr. Speaker, and I have reasons for doing so. Mr. Speaker, the key witness or the mover of the motion came before this House yesterday, Mr. Speaker. And although I'm not a lawyer, but I know that it is there in the rules of natural justice that whoever alleges must prove. The Honorable Mutuse was not able to prove any of the allegations or any of the grounds that he laid against His Excellency the Deputy President, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Kenyans were and are watching these proceedings. They were able to see the cross-examination and to hear the cross-examination of the Honorable Mutuse, Mr. Speaker. And I want to urge this House, Mr. Speaker, that if we want to uphold the dignity and the honor of this House, that Kenyans were and are still watching, you cannot impeach the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, Mr. Speaker, on allegations, on grounds that were not able to, that the mover was not able to prove, Mr. Speaker. And that is what prompted the question, I think, by Senator Wambua, which later was asked by Senator Okia Umtata, which you were able to stand down because it had already been asked, whose motion was Mutuse's? Because it was not his motion. He had no proof of any or for any of the allegations, Mr. Speaker, and that is why this House, in order for us to uphold, like I've said, the dignity and honor, we need to vote no to this motion, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, many that have spoken before me have talked about the woman, the adulterous woman that was caught in the Bible. Senator Kajwang put it even better, that they did not bring the man that she was caught in the act with. Mr. Speaker, we need to ask ourselves, how good are we? How clean are we? Are we qualified to throw the first stone, Mr. Speaker? I think that is the first question that we should ask ourselves. That as we judge the Deputy President, how good are we? How many mistakes, how many offenses have we ever committed? How many sins even have we ever committed? And God forgive us, and our fellow human beings also forgive us, Mr. Speaker. But the most moving thing, Mr. Speaker, is that we did not give the Deputy President an opportunity. I know, of course, the motion to defer this particular, to adjourn up to Saturday did not pass. But, Mr. Speaker, under Section 50 of our Constitution, Mr. Speaker, 50-0, Mr. Speaker, we need to give any person, 50-0, that is 50, Mr. Speaker, 2F, to be present and when being tried, unless the conduct of the accused person makes it impossible for the trial to proceed. Mr. Speaker, the Deputy President was taken ill, according to what the council reported to this House. And, Mr. Speaker, we did not give him an opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I draw your attention also to our Constitution, Article 145, Clause 5, the President shall have the right to appear and, not or, and be represented before the special committee, Mr. Speaker. We did not give him that opportunity. Mr. Speaker, because I can see my time is wearing out, if not for anything, Mr. Speaker, I ask this House, you cannot condemn a sick person. Any one of us can get sick. I want to appeal to my colleagues, Mr. Speaker. Nobody chooses when to get sick and when to be in good health. We cannot afford to judge a person, to condemn a person when they are in hospital, Mr. Speaker. And so I want to appeal to the members of this House that if not for anything else, you consider that the Deputy President has been taken ill and show the necessary compassion. And, Mr. Speaker, I want to my majority leader is here, and he made a statement that was very disturbing, that even those that are saying that it can bring division should.
Senator Mogene.
Mr. Speaker, sir, first on my own behalf and on behalf of the people of the great county of Nyamira, I want to send a message of quick recovery to His Excellency President Rigathi, and we wish him a speedy recovery. Mr. Speaker, the Bible says in the book of Ecclesiastes 3, verse 1, that there is a season for everything. There is a season to be born politically and a season to die politically. That's biblical. The Speaker, I've agonized. Mr. Speaker, I've gone through a lot of... Mr. Speaker, as I listened to the evidence that was tendered against... As I listen, Mr. Speaker.
Just pause the time for Senator Mogeni. Let us allow Senator Mogeni to be heard in total silence, please.
Speaker, as a lawyer and a person who witnessed the birth of the 2010 Constitution, Mr. Speaker, I strongly believe, Mr. Speaker, that Kenya belongs to all the 42 plus tribes, Mr. Speaker. And what has disturbed me, Mr. Speaker, for the 2 days I've sat here, Mr. Speaker, what will happen to my community in Kisii and in Nyamira if we run our government through this theory of shareholding? Mr. Speaker, as I speak tonight, Mr. Speaker, the people of the two counties of Omogusi, Nyamira, and Kisii are victims of that theory of shareholding. That community, Mr. Speaker, called Omogusi, has got no even a single PS serving in government, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as we speak this evening, Mr. Speaker, the Omogusi people, Mr. Speaker, have been the biggest victims of this theory of shareholding. Mr. Speaker, the Constitution that we enacted in 2010, in Article 27, Mr. Speaker, clearly states that we should not discriminate, Mr. Speaker. I hope, Mr. Speaker, when I cast my vote tonight, I'll be sending a message from the people of Nyamira, Mr. Speaker, that a government is formed for all the tribes in the Republic of Kenya, Mr. Speaker. I've agonized, Mr. Speaker, on the issues that have been brought in this motion, touching on the widow and the children of the late Governor for Nyeri, Gachagua. And Mr. Speaker, I wondered if adverse statements and inferences have been made touching on the conduct of the Deputy President against the widow of the former governor and the children of the late governor, the nephews of the Deputy President. Why, Mr. Speaker, I ask as a father, why, Mr. Speaker, did the widow and the children of the late Governor Gachagua swear an affidavit to dispel all the things that have been said against a scheme of swindling those children? Why, Mr. Speaker? Why didn't they swear an affidavit, Mr. Speaker? That has troubled me a lot. And as I cast my vote tonight, Mr. Speaker, I'll be casting my vote for those children who lost their mother, who lost their father, but who were not given an opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to appear before this House and tell us, Mr. Speaker, that there has not been any wrongdoing from the Deputy President to those children. Count number 1, count number 8 is about the utterances that were made by the Deputy Speaker. I hope, Mr. Speaker, that the person who will occupy that coveted position of Deputy President will reflect on what John says in chapter 3, verse 5. Mr. Speaker, the Bible says that the tongue is a small part of the body, but the tongue is also fire, and it's a world of evil among parts of the body. If the Deputy President had checked his utterances, Mr. Speaker, perhaps we will not be having this motion this evening. So, as we vote tonight, Mr. Speaker, let's also learn from what the tongue has done to Honorable Gachagua. I will vote, Mr. Speaker, where I'm convinced that allegations against the Deputy President have been proved. I reserve my vote to be cast at the right time.
Senator Boni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the position of the Deputy President of Kenya is very high. It is a very high calling. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, as we make a decision on the Deputy President of Kenya, I want to remind him that of those to whom more is given, indeed, more is expected of them. And he should not feel that he is being victimized because, Mr. Speaker, the highest standard of this Constitution in 2013, by dint of lack of integrity, the Deputy Chief Justice, Nancy Barasa, lost her job merely because she pinched the nose of Kwamboka. The Deputy President indeed did worse than pinching the nose of somebody. Mr. Speaker, the Deputy President, seeing the allegations against him, I can't imagine that he moves around with the moninga of man of faith and truthful man. Mr. Speaker, if really we must talk about faith, may I remind the Deputy President of a man of faith, a man of letters called Bill Paul. Bill Paul said, man of faith, that integrity is like virginity. You lose it only once. And when you lose it, you can never get it back. The Deputy President has lost that virginity of leadership. Mr. Speaker, coming from a community that paid for the price of inflammatory speeches in Likoni, in Molo, and in Trans Nzoia, if I had time, I would discuss what some of my relatives went through, including Pastor Liai from Ichina village. Mr. Speaker, during the tribal clashes of 1992 progressive constitution that will be removing him, hopefully, this evening from office. Mr. Speaker, even as we ask the Deputy President to leave office, we must insist that the DCI and the ESCC and other investigative institutions must pursue this matter beyond this vote. I have on mind, Mr. Speaker, the activities of the intricate web of companies up to 22, so to speak. The reason I believe young Mutuse could not bring all this, dear senators, colleagues, is because effort requires money, requires time to do all that research. Some of them you have to do clandestine for you to get information. I believe that if the Deputy President had taken the dog, we were going to completely undress him. We would have asked him to justify what activities each and every one of those companies was doing. It's part of the reason why he stepped down, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have evidence, which I don't wish to be part of the case, that as soon as the Deputy President's brother died, the wife went to the corporate branch of the cooperative bank and started crying there that the manager should stop the Deputy President from operating these accounts. Mr. Speaker, finally, the Deputy President must be investigated for the role.
Senator Eddy.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you, and I recognize the pressure of time. Mr. Speaker, I am here because of the kindness of the people of Migori County who sent me here that at such a time, Mr. Speaker, I need to be cautious of the Article 125 of the Constitution, which requires us as a House that in matters such as this, Mr. Speaker, we must behave like judges, because under Article 125 of the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, we sit as a High Court, Mr. Speaker. And in the words of Socrates, Mr. Speaker, a judge is required to listen courteously, to answer wisely, to consider soberly, and definitely to decide impartially, Mr. Speaker. There were 11 charges, Mr. Speaker, that were put before us, Mr. Speaker, and they were put to us in the context of Constitution 2010, Mr. Speaker. The Constitution 2010, Mr. Speaker, came in the backdrop of two very important historic moments in this country, Mr. Speaker, that I must reflect on, Mr. Speaker. Number one, Mr. Speaker, is the section paper number 10 of 1965, Mr. Speaker. That section paper number 10, Mr. Speaker, divided this country into those who are important and those who are not important. The language that was used then, Mr. Speaker, was the idea of Northern Frontier District, Mr. Speaker, that then discriminated upon some communities, Mr. Speaker, against others, Mr. Speaker. Number two, Mr. Speaker, in 2007, Mr. Speaker, this country was divided on the basis of ethnicity, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, I rise to support this motion if my grounds, Mr. Speaker, after listening courteously and considering soberly, Mr. Speaker, are more than half of the charges, Mr. Speaker. And I find that ground 1, 5, and 6 on the utterances of the Deputy President, Mr. Speaker, violate Article 91 of the Constitution and Article 232 of the Constitution. We cannot have political parties, Mr. Speaker, that are founded on the basis of ethnicity and dividing national resources on the basis of ethnicity, Mr. Speaker. Number two, Mr. Speaker, that would make the ground number 4, which actually also happened to be reason number 4 for why the Deputy President must leave office, Mr. Speaker, at the violation of Article 160 of the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, of undermining the judiciary, Mr. Speaker. There was an imminent threat to the judges there, Mr. Speaker. You realize that in my judgment, Mr. Speaker, I excuse ground number 8 on the basis of the fact that there was no proof that there was a petition that was not filed, Mr. Speaker. But on the threat, Mr. Speaker, I think that the Deputy President stands impeached, Mr. Speaker. Ground number 9, Mr. Speaker, on NIS, Mr. Speaker. We know that this country has faced serious terror attacks, Mr. Speaker. And the moment the Deputy President, Mr. Speaker, showcases the secrecy of deficiency in our security infrastructure, Mr. Speaker, and you know that under Article 240, he has platforms to be able to express himself, Mr. Speaker, it is a violation of the Constitution, Mr. Speaker. Lastly, on ground number 11, Mr. Speaker, on bullying KEMSA official, Mr. Speaker, it has been proven here beyond reasonable doubt, Mr. Speaker, that the Deputy President is not a member of the company that was listed. He's not an employee of that company, Mr. Speaker, yet he goes ahead and makes calls on behalf of that company, Mr. Speaker. That is impeachable. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, I must call the Council of the Deputy President to order, Mr. Speaker, especially Council Paul Muite, Mr. Speaker, for actually practicing law in deceit, Mr. Speaker. You cannot say that at the level of the Deputy President, Mr. Speaker, he was okay in this house the entire time, and then when asked, you are saying you cannot be able to account for his whereabouts, and you know that the Deputy President, Mr. Speaker, also must be able to be taken care of by the DG of Health, Mr. Speaker, who could have given us a document to be able to substantiate whether the Deputy President is sick, Mr. Speaker. While I say sorry to the Deputy President, Mr. Speaker, I think this kind of deceit should also be tantamount to further impeachment, Mr. Speaker. I do therefore say that on ground 2, 3, 7, 8, and 10, they are not substantiated. But on ground 1, 5, 6, 4, 9, and 11, Mr. Speaker, this is a fight against tribalism that is done by one individual that then we must...
Senator Osotsi, unfortunately, you only have 4 minutes because we terminate at exactly 10:30.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'll be so quick. Mr. Speaker, when the Deputy President was here, I remembered the saying of a famous philosopher, 19th century, Lord Acton, who said, power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Mr. Speaker, a few of us here served with the Deputy President in the National Assembly. And when we were there in the National Assembly, the Deputy President was a very humble man, very simple, very social, and was rare to talk. But listening to the judges and having seen what has been happening around, this is not the same man. This is a different man. So indeed, I want to agree with this philosopher that power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And this is, it may affect all of us here. So there is something we need to learn from what has happened today. Mr. Speaker, I also want to congratulate the members here for their decency and maturity in conducting a fair trial. Mr. Speaker, it is not true that the Deputy President has not been given a hearing. We had to adjourn this House for 2 hours to wait for the witness to come. He didn't come. And Mr. Speaker, you know that the tradition of this House, that sometimes we receive written submissions. We do that in our committees. We do that in public participation. So the members who are saying that he was not given a fair hearing is that that is not true, because this House tried as much as possible to get the Deputy President to come. Mr. Speaker, a lot has been said about various laws and articles of the Constitution that the Deputy President has violated. But one important article of the Constitution that runs through all the charges, Mr. Speaker, is Article 131 of the Constitution, which read together with Article 147, clearly says that the Deputy President is a symbol of national unity. That is not the case, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if you go ahead, Article 131(2) says that the Deputy President, by dint of Article 147, should respect and uphold and safeguard the Constitution. That is not the case. The Deputy President should promote and enhance the unity of the nation. That is not the case. The Deputy President should promote respect for diversity of the people and communities in Kenya. Mr. Speaker, that is not the case. So if there is any piece of law that is going to send the Deputy President home, is clear violation of Article 131 of the Constitution, because the Deputy President is a principal assistant to the President and therefore exercises powers of the President as per Article 131 of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, if there is one charge, because we have 11 charges, that is going to send the Deputy President home, it's charge number 1. I listened to the evidence that was brought here by his counsel. That evidence of the coalition agreement of Kenya Kwanza was not sufficient, was not convincing. And in fact, Mr. Speaker, the Deputy President conveniently hid for...
Your time is up. Majority Leader, you may now move to reply.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to hereby reply, having listened to the contributions of my colleagues on this very important motion on trial by impeachment of the Deputy President, Honorable Rigathi Gachagua. I want to thank colleagues that have taken time to give their views, both in support and those opposing this motion, because that's how you grow a democracy, Mr. Speaker. We may not all have to agree on the same subject matter, Mr. Speaker, but the chance to even speak and say what you feel about an issue is an important attribute. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, I agree with the contribution that was made by one of the advocates for the Assembly, that comparing what you're doing today with previously what used to happen, where in the 1 o'clock news, vice presidents will be changed without any notice. And the elaborate process, Mr. Speaker, that we have gone through up to this point is great for our country. Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the National Assembly, the team of the Deputy President, Mr. Speaker, that has presented us with information to help us make a fair judgment of this case. Mr. Speaker, I strongly disagree with those that hold the view that the Senate hasn't been as fair to the Deputy President as perhaps they would have expected. To the best of my knowledge, Mr. Speaker, I think as a House, we did the best that was within our means. We granted the opportunity, was given sufficient notice, Mr. Speaker. It is only in the unfortunate circumstance of this afternoon where he was taken ill, Mr. Speaker, and I'd wish to take this time to extend my message of goodwill to him and wish that he can quickly recover and get on with his other duties, Mr. Speaker, both as a human being and should, whichever way this vote goes, Mr. Speaker, because it's not in my hands, but in the hands of the 67 jury that are here, Mr. Speaker, that he shall continue to thrive. I wish him well, Mr. Speaker. Like I observed earlier, this is a friend, and friends wish each other well under all circumstances. Mr. Speaker, you know, just as a final thought, I thought about the journey of the Deputy President and the tribulations that have occurred to him as occurrence to either his conduct or utterances. And I'm reminded of a book I once read, Mr. Speaker, by Senegalese satirist Osman Sembene, a book called Hala, where, Mr. Speaker, a very rich businessman by the name El Haji looks and desires a beautiful young lady by the name Ngone, and finally takes her in as a third wife. Unfortunately, on the same night that he marries her, he develops erectile dysfunction, Mr. Speaker, and is not able to consummate the marriage. Sometimes in life, Mr. Speaker, when you fall down, you have to prepare to get down before you eventually can rise up, Mr. Speaker. I do hope, Mr. Speaker, that even in this particular process, the Deputy President will emerge stronger, better as a human being, as a leader, and that there can be better days ahead for him. With those very many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I beg to reply and wish that our colleagues in this House make a decision in the best interest of the country. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Now, honorable senators, these are the guidelines on how we're going to move forward. One, all honorable senators are eligible to cast their votes. Secondly, the threshold is 45 senators. So there ought to be 45 senators in the chamber. And we're going to vote for the charges separately. So we're going to vote 11 times. I now direct that the bell be rung for 2 minutes.
These are live proceedings from the Senate chambers, and the senators are done debating the motion that was moved for the we're watching live pictures from the Senate where debate has been concluded. Good evening. You are watching live pictures from the Senate chambers, and are done debating the motion that was moved seeking the removal from office by impeachment the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, and now they are preparing to take a vote on the 11 charges that were brought forward against the Deputy President. Charge 1, gross violation of Articles 10, Subarticle 2A and B and C, Article 27, Subarticle 4, Article 73, Subarticle 1A and 2B, Article 75, Subarticle 1C,
Clerk, has the bell stopped ringing? Sergeant at Arms, kindly close the doors and draw the bar. Clerk, can you do a head count to confirm that we have a minimum of 45 senators in the House? Order, honorable senators. Majority Leader, you may take your seat. Now, honorable senators, we are moving to division. I will first put the question. Voting shall be electronically, and we shall be voting on separate charges. So we're going to vote 11 times this evening. I'll proceed to put the question. Honorable senators that are aware that the National Assembly on the 8th of October 2024 resolved, with the support of 282 members, being at least 2/3 of all members of the National Assembly, that pursuant to the provisions of Article 145(2), as read with Article 151(b) and 2 of the Constitution, and Standing Order 65(2) of the National Assembly Standing Orders, His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, EGH, Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, be removed from office by impeachment on the grounds specified in the special motion. Whereas by a letter reference NA/DLP/TBO/MTS/2024 into brackets 25, dated the 8th of October 2024, and received in the office of the Speaker of the Senate on the 9th of October 2024, the Speaker of the National Assembly informed the Speaker of the Senate of the approval of the special motion by the National Assembly, and further forwarded to the Speaker of the Senate documents in evidence of the proceedings of the National Assembly. Further, whereas pursuant to Article 145, as read with Article 150, 1B and 2 of the Constitution, and Standing Orders 78 and 79 of the Senate Standing Orders, the Senate had the National Assembly on the grounds for the proposed removal from office by impeachment of His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, EGH, Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. And further, whereas pursuant to Article 145, as read with Article 150, 1B and 2 of the Constitution, and Standing Orders 78 and 79 of the Senate Standing Orders, the Senate also had His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, EGH, Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, on the grounds of his proposed removal from office by impeachment of the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. Now, therefore, pursuant to Article 145, as read with Article 150, 1B and 2 of the Constitution, and Standing Order 78 and 79 of the Senate Standing Orders, the Senate resolves to remove from office by impeachment His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, EGH, Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, on the following grounds. 1. Gross violation of Articles 10, 2A, B and C, 27(4), 73(1)A and 2B, 75(1)C and 129(2) of the Constitution, and Article 147(1) as read together with Article 131(2)C and D of the Constitution. 2. Gross violation of Article 147(1) and 152(1) of the Constitution by Number 3. Gross violation of Article 6(2), 10(2)A, 174, 186(1), 189(1), and the fourth schedule to the Constitution by undermining devolution. Number 4, gross violation of Article 161 of the Constitution on the institutional and decisional independence of judges. Number 5, gross violation of Articles 3(1) and 148(5)A of the Constitution on the fidelity to the oath of office and allegiance. Number 6, serious reason to believe that His Excellency the Deputy President has committed crimes under Section 13(1)A and 62 of the National Cohesion and Integration Act. Number 7, serious reason to believe that His Excellency the Deputy President has committed gross economic crimes under Sections 45(1), 46, 47(a)(3), and 48(1) of the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act, and Sections 2, 3, 4, and 7 of the Proceeds of Crime and Anti-Money Laundering Act. Number 8, serious reasons to believe that His Excellency the Deputy President has committed crimes by continuously misleading members of the public through false, malicious, defensive, and insightful remarks that are contrary to the provisions of Section 132 of the Penal Code and Section 29 of the Leadership and Integrity Act. Number 9, gross misconduct that is incompatible with the high calling and dignified status of the office of the Deputy President and a member of the Cabinet and the National Security Council. His Excellency, the Deputy President has publicly attacked and undermined the work of the National Security Intelligence Service and its officers. Number 10, gross misconduct by openly or publicly insubordinating the President, who is the head of state and government. And number 11, gross misconduct by persistently bullying state and public officers. As I've already indicated, honorable senators, voting shall be done electronically. So at this juncture, I will ask honorable senators to pull your cards out of the delegate unit. Sergeant at Arms, kindly go around and pick all the unattended delegate cards. Sergeant at Arms, if you're done collecting the unattended cards, we're good. Now, honorable senators, you may log in back. As indicated earlier, we'll be casting our votes 11 times. So the vote you're going to cast at the moment is for charge allegation number 1, which is gross violation of Articles 10(2)(a), B, and C, 27(4). I had already read it out. So from this moment, it's beamed on the screens. So honorable senators, once you've logged in, you may now proceed to vote. Senator Tabitha Keroche, may you move to dispatch and get some assistance. We're now going to allegation number 2. It's been beamed on the screen. You may now vote. We shall now move to ground number 3, allegation number 3. Can you beam it? There we are. Honorable Senators, you may now proceed to vote on allegation number 3. We are now going to allegation number 4. Let it be beamed on the screen. Honorable Senators, we may now proceed to vote on ground number 4. Honorable Senators, we are now moving to vote on charge number 5. You may now proceed to vote on charge number 5. Honorable Senators, we are now moving to allegation number 6. Honorable Senators, you may now proceed to vote on allegation number 6. Honorable Senators, we are now going to move to allegation number 7. Honorable Senators, you may now proceed to vote on allegation number 7. Honorable Senators, we are now moving to ground number 8. Honorable Senators, you may now proceed to vote on ground number 8. Senator Karungo, just come to the dispatch, Senator Karungo, and cast your vote. Honorable Senators, we're moving to charge number 9. You may proceed to vote. Honorable Senators, we're moving to charge number 10. You may now proceed to vote. Senator Boni, proceed to dispatch and cast your vote. Honorable Senators, we're now moving to the final charge, charge number 11. You may proceed to vote. Honorable Senator Methu, proceed to dispatch. Senator Karen Nyamu, likewise. Senator Alan Chesang, proceed to the dispatch. Senator Karungo, proceed to the dispatch. Senator Miraj, proceed to dispatch and cast your vote. Senator Ojenda, proceed to dispatch. Order, honorable senators. Senator Okoit Omtata, Senator Bass and Senator Oroba. Please take your seats. Now, the result of the division is as follows. Charge number 1, ayes 54, nays 13, abstention 0. So the ayes have it. Charge number 2, ayes 28, nays 39, abstention 0. So the nays have it. Charge number 3, ayes 19, nays 45, abstention 3. So the nays have it. Charge number 4, the ayes at 51, nays at 16, abstention at 0. The ayes have it. Charge number 5, ayes 49, nays 16, abstention 2. So the ayes have it. Charge number 6, ayes at 48, nays at 18, abstention 1. So the ayes have it. Charge number 7, the ayes 13, nays 53, abstention 1. So the nays have it. Charge number 8, ayes 27, nays 40, abstention 0. So the nays have it. Charge number 9, ayes 46, nays 20, abstention 1. So the ayes have it. Charge number 10, ayes 22, nays 45, abstention 0. The nays have it. Charge number 11, the ayes 18, nays at 47, abstention 2. So the nays have it. Now, honorable senators, the result of the division indicate that the Senate has upheld the following impeachment grounds. 1, gross violation of Articles 10(2)(a), B, and C, 27(4), 73(1)(a), and 2B, 75(1)(c), and 129(2) of the Constitution, and Article 147(1) as read together with Article 131(2)(c) and D of the Constitution. 4, gross violation, ground number 4, gross violation of Article 161 of the Constitution on the institutional and decisional independence of judges. Ground number 5, gross violation of Articles 3(1) and 148(5)(a) of the Constitution and the fidelity to the oath of office and allegiance. Ground number 6, serious reasons to believe that His Excellency the Deputy President has committed crimes under Sections 13(1)(a) and 62 of the National Cohesion and Integration Act. Ground number 9, gross misconduct that is incompatible with the high calling and dignified status of the office of the Deputy President and a member of the Cabinet and the National Security Council. His Excellency the Deputy President has publicly attacked and undermined work of the National Security Intelligence Service and its officers. Now, honorable senators, pursuant to Article 145(7) and 151(b) and 2 of the Constitution and Standing Order 78(8) of the Senate has resolved to remove from office by impeachment His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua AGH, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. Accordingly, His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua AGH ceases to hold office. I thank you. You may rise, honorable senators. Now, honorable senators, there being no business on the order paper, the Senate stands adjourned until Tuesday, the 22nd of October, 2024 at 2:30 p.m.
You've been watching the impeachment of Deputy President Gachagua, who has been found guilty